snowed in parts in the state.
You still have snow in
Yeah.
Wisconsin. Wow.
Yeah, we had snowfall this week, actually, which it didn't stick around. But I mean, there's still
Oh, no.
some, yeah.
I'm so sorry. Oh, and now I can hear the Wisconsin accent in your voice now that you said Wisconsin.
And I'm not actually originally from here, so I have a blend, I suppose. Here's my cat. I have a blend of, here's the little monster that so she's cute, but she's trouble.
Oh, let me see her.
Oh, yeah, here's my cat.
Oh, hello, kitty.
Yeah,
hello, beautiful. I don't know. I think my cat's outside in the tornado somewhere. So
you're gonna get PETA on your case.
Probably go rescue her at some point.
They hear sirens at,
So, okay, I'm going to come over. We're going to have a little bit of dead air just for a minute or two while people find us.
Sure.
And why am I not seeing the link come up? Oh, shoot.
So it looks like we have, I think I'm gonna mispronounce this, but Nitin or Nitin, I'm gonna say that wrong. My apologies, but lived in.
Oh, you can call him Larry.
Larry. So Larry, my apologies for botching your name. I used to be a teacher, so I got pretty good at only messing up names once. I usually figure them out, but I would sometimes fail miserably. But
So why am I not seeing? I'm over on Facebook and I'm not seeing our broadcast because I was going to share this in the other groups, but why is it not coming up for me? David?
You assume I know more than I really do, apparently.
You know everything, don't you?
Yeah, if only that were the case.
Oh, there you are. I see you now. Okay, so if you go over to my webpage, I'm going to share this to the Profound Somnambulism group now, and you can share it to your page.
Okay.
And anyone who's watching this on the replay, just fast forward it to where it looks like we're talking a lot. And thank you who's joining us now. Thanks for your patience. We're just waiting a few moments for people to find us.
Larry's happy here, so it's a party, I guess.
Yes. Larry is awesome. And he's also my stalker, too. But he's been falling behind on his job lately of stalking me. Wait a minute. Let me try that again. Share.
Oh, Larry's in India. Larry has some wonderful Indian food for me. I love Indian food. I'm a foodie, because if I know someone's in some place, like a different country or a different area, I will notice the food, and I'll notice like whatever beer or liquor they make there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Like Belgium has all this great history, and the only thing I can think of is that I love Trappist ales, and Scotland's this gorgeous country, and of course I'm like, well, single malt whiskey is the thing to know about in Scotland. But
right. There's one. All right, so I shared it to my business page accidentally. I didn't really mean to share it there, but that's okay. And now I'm going to share it to the Profound Somnambulism page.
Yeah, why not?
That's cool that you're a foodie. I have friends. I love hanging out with my foodies friends, but then until I start gaining a lot of weight, and then I have to like back off from them for a while.
Yeah. I find that it depends what you eat too. Like I like sushi, and I don't think you can really gain a lot of weight on sushi. I mean, you probably could, but that's not something you can really gorge yourself on too much.
Yeah. Maybe the rice.
Yeah, I suppose, but even then, there's not that much rice in a sushi roll or a sashimi. If you like that.
Yeah, you get sushimi, but I like the rice with my sushi.
Yeah.
And thank you again, everyone, for your patience. And I think Beryl might be here. So hi, Beryl. Thanks for joining. I thought I saw her name pop up. There we go. Now I'm going to. All right, we're on live now. So I didn't really need to type a message, but I did. Oops, and I
I think Jess Marion's here. Hey, Jess.
All right, now I'm posting this into my Profound Somnambulism and Beyond group, since that's where I said I was going to be hosting it to begin with. Make sure that they can see it too. Hey, Wendy Weber. All right. Now I'm getting out of Facebook and I'm going back over to... I'm not sure if are you able to see the comments when they pop up, or do you just see them pop up and fade away?
I have them open, so I see when new ones come up.
Oh, okay. You got it. Do you have Facebook open?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. Because I also have the comments on my side, and I think on this platform, it just, if you're only over here, it just flashes up and then it goes away. But I was going to say, if you couldn't see them, don't worry about it. I'll read the comments anyway.
All right.
And I also have this nifty little thing where I can do like this.
Hey. Yeah, it's going to be all about sushi. Sorry, guys. You thought it was about placebo. We're really going to talk about sushi and ethnic foods from around the world.
You didn't know that this podcast was going to be about sushi. You thought it was going to be about hypnosis versus placebo. So... Okay. So give me just a minute here. Hey, Scott. And Jacqueline, hello. Here, I'm just going to hide our names for a moment. In a minute, I'll formally introduce you. We're just giving it another moment or two for people to find us. And Larry says, I know what you ate for breakfast. Because he's my stalker.
Yes.
That's funny. And Alex is here. Hi, Alex. And actually, your comment sort of is what triggered this for us to have this discussion, because I think it's a real fascinating one. And I like to get different points of view from different people.
Sure.
And, and this is probably a good place to kind of start.
Why not?
I'm glad that I'm not a newbie hypnotist coming in today, because I would be so confused. I think I really would, because, now we're hearing there's no such thing as hypnosis, or everything is hypnosis. And if everything is hypnosis, then nothing is hypnosis. And so it just gets very, very confusing. We don't have a really good definition, our unified definition, I should say. We have lots of great definitions for hypnosis, but we don't have really one unified definition for hypnosis. So you have to just kind of pick and choose which one feels right for you. And
yes.
So thank you, everybody, for joining me on the Waking Hypnosis show today. Actually, I'm going to pause that right there before I get any further into this wonderful, fabulous discussion that we're about to have. I do want to announce that we have a winner for naming the Profound Somnambulism promotional period. And that is the Spring into Somnambulism with PSP. And congratulations to David Cyril. I think I pronounced your last name right. I'm not sure. But David Cyril, you're the winner. So you get a product worth any training product that you want. If you just go over to my website, stephanieconkle.com, any product worth the value of $30 or less, it's yours for free. Or you can get any training product and I'll give you a $30 discount if it's if it's larger than $30. Or you can go to Clear Life Results. You can get any hypnosis recording you want for free. Or you got one last option. And this is probably the highest value. You can get an hour mentorship with me. That's valued at $350. And you can get that for free. So just decide what you want, whatever you want to do. It's totally up to you. Private message me and we'll work it out. And I want to thank everybody who played, who had fun with me and helped me think of the name for my promotion for Profound Somnambulism. So right now, if you want to get a deep discount off of the Profound Somnambulism protocol, I know a lot of people have been waiting for it because it's originally $12.97. A lot of people are like, hey, that's a little tight for me. I'm just going to wait until you discount it. So right now is the time. If you want to get the Profound Somnambulism protocol at a really phenomenal discount, then you have from now until May 7th. And May 7th is going to end. So go ahead and jump on that now. All right. And now let's go ahead and welcome David Ruby. Welcome David Ruby to the Waking Hypnosis Show. Thank you for joining us. And this show is just about talking shop, and it's just to have fun. I don't have any questions even prepared. They're just whatever comes off the top of my head, because I really want this to be more like talking shop and not so formal. So tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, your background, so people can get to know you if they don't already know you.
Well, it starts back in the 70s, Stephanie, and no, joking aside,
that was a good decade.
yeah. We're going off the rails here. So I've been doing hypnosis. I think I started about 7 years ago. I'd have to look and see. So I'm a hypnotist, obviously. I'm in Wisconsin. My business, in case anyone's curious, is Fox Valley Hypnosis because I'm in the Fox Valley. My background is, before this will explain why I care about this topic. Before this, I was a teacher, and then I was a medical librarian. That's my master's in medical science.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's awesome. Yes. I knew you were a teacher.
Yes. A teacher a while ago. That was a long time ago, and a lifetime ago. Okay. But the way I got into this was, actually, I saw your interview with Alex, and I disagreed with him wholly. Actually, I take that back. I thought it was an interesting topic that hypnosis was just placebo. And my first thought was, well, no, it's not. Because logically, if it was...
Well, I meant, how did you get to hypnosis? But that's okay. We can get into that, too.
Oh, okay. If you want to. How to get hypnosis? I'm sorry.
Yeah, just real brief.
Okay. Briefly, I was just curious about it. I heard about it. I'd read about it. And, of course, I had all the misconceptions everyone else has. But I thought, well, this sounds really cool. And since that's the librarian background, well, I can research this. Is this real? Is this just a fluke? Is it something that's made up? So I just researched it, and then I found, of course, the evidence in modern journals. Then I found, about Dave Ellman and Esdale, as far back as Esdale and Mesmer. I consider that a form of hypnosis in a way. Rick Collingwood would probably disagree with me, but he's not here, so I can say that. Just kidding, Rick. You see this. But I was curious. I have a naturally curious mind. I enjoy learning things. I'm never... I don't think there is a singular truth or a singular right answer. So, and I would actually encourage anyone that's watching this, don't just believe me. Don't just take my word on it. Obviously, I think I have, the best conclusion I can come to. But, be curious, look for yourself. Don't just... The
best conclusion for you.
Yeah. But, see what the evidence says, see what's out there, and then draw your own conclusion. So I'm not out to present the quote unquote right answer. I wish I could do that. That'd be great. But I'm not out to sell that. I'm not trying to, convince people that I'm right about everything. That'd be great if it was, the case, but it's not.
Yeah. And so, when I'm doing my hypnosis, I have to do it in a way that makes sense to me. It may not be logical or rational to anyone else, but as long as I understand it with my logic, then I can do it. Yeah. So, but then there is, that does kind of bring us to, what is hypnosis? Is it the placebo effect? Is it, is it something else? We know that it's not this outside power. We know that, it happens from within, and that the subconscious plays a huge role in it. But I want to know, your thoughts and your opinions. I interviewed Alex Smith a while back, and he had a really fascinating take on it. But I saw this little debate going on between you two on the forum, and I thought since I gave Alex a platform, I thought I'd give you a platform too to, enlighten us with your own opinion with the research that you've discovered.
Well, going back to my initial response was that there's no way it's the same thing. And that was probably the wrong conclusion to jump to without actually looking, because I figured if it was just placebo, then there would be no better results with hypnosis than with placebo. Like it would, like any medication that has to get approved, it has to do better than placebo for them to even use it. So
it has to beat placebo.
Yeah. So if placebo was, if hypnosis was just placebo, then you could easily look at any study that showed the exact same results, and then why bother? If I could just give you the red pill, and you got the same results as seeing a therapist or seeing a hypnotist, rather, then that's an easier process. Here, take 2 of these, call me in the morning. But then I actually thought, well, let's actually see what the research says. That's how I got into this field in the first place.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I looked, and the reason I'll say definitively that hypnosis is not placebo is just because I use it differently. And that's not my opinion, but as far as lexicon, if you want to call it that, placebo is an inert thing, like it's inactive. You take 2 pills, or you get a fake injection, or they even have sham surgeries, which I thought was interesting, where they do they could put you under, make an incision, and not do anything. It's like your elbow or something, and sew you back up, and that would be a placebo surgery. But they don't do anything. There's no active process, whereas hypnosis is an active process.
So, hypnosis. Oh, let me have your definition of hypnosis so I can just kind of make sense of where you're coming from with this.
Oh boy. My definition of hypnosis would probably be, I take liberties with Stephen Heller's book, There's No Such Thing as Hypnosis, ? I think hypnosis is just the formal utilization or elicitation of a trance. And I think trances are things we're in all the time. So that's very much, I think it's a Ericksonian or post-Ericksonian view, where there are various kinds of trances, not all of which are useful. If someone's having an anxiety attack, that's a trance state. They have the absorption, they have the focus.
Yeah.
But it's not a great state.
Right.
When you read a book and you lose track of time, and you're in Mordor or whatever, that's a trance. But hypnosis, I think, is either the formal elicitation of a trance, or you notice a trance and then you work with that.
So what about, do you align it with suggestive therapeutics? So a suggestion is given, and because that suggestion is given in such a way that it's taken by the client, the patient, what have you, in such a way that it affects the change?
I would say that's probably I think that's a working definition of working hypnosis. Like, I think hypnosis, as far as all the Stephen Heller stuff aside, it's that absorption of focus with you and the client. And then the suggestion is what you give. That's the suggestion.
Right. And so if the doctor is giving the suggestion for the placebo, does it make the doctor a hypnotist or not?
Why not? Sure. I mean, in a way.
In a way. Like an acting hypnotist, and during that time when he's saying, okay, you're going to take this and you're going to feel this way. Well,
doctors are they're using hypnotic language, whether they realize it or not. Same with parents. Parents are your first hypnotists. Again, it's not the hypnotist in the way that a professional hypnotist is, where they know what they're doing.
Right.
But parents give suggestions, like, you're going to grow up and be a scientist someday, or, tomorrow's going to stink because you have to go to school. Kids take those suggestions on. That's not much different than you saying, you may find that this pain fades away, or you wouldn't use pain, but you may find that over the next few days,
discomfort or something like that.
Right. So, I think it's a similar process. One of the things I think hypnosis and placebo work under suggestion. I think Irving Kirsch said that in one of his studies that I And I can actually post these if anyone's curious where I got this stuff from.
So that's the similarities, is that they work under suggestion. I'm trying to understand what the difference is.
Yeah, the difference as far as the literature I've looked at, and I have some notes here I can read from.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
If you need to.
Yeah, right. Well, it's nice that you're not just taking my word on it. But placebo is basically, it works on suggestion. Like that you're given, let's say, a pill, and there's a suggestion either directly, take these will, make your headache go away. Or just even Bob Burns, I'll reference him because he uses a placebo with hypnosis to enhance it. He'll give him like 2 red bullet-shaped pills, and that'll enhance the hypnosis. He'll say, take 2 of these, and then he'll write in his notes and use it to help enhance his hypnosis.
Take 2 of these and call me in the morning.
Yeah, but the main difference in the literature and how it's explained is that, again, placebo is inert. You take the placebo, and it just does what it does. There's no other interaction. Now, if you couple that with oral suggestions and you made it a ritualistic thing, that might be a different story. But hypnosis is an actual process.
Mm-hmm. And do you align hypnosis with trance, or do you think that it's separate from trance?
I think hypnosis is the utilization of trance.
Okay. I
think trances are just things we're in. That's what I'm probably misusing it a bit or overusing it, but I think Stephen Heller's thought was that a lot of things are trance states. We're always in some kind of trance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I sort of distinguish the two between natural trance and hypnotic trance. And so when I'm talking about hypnosis, I'll say hypnotic trance just to sort of distinguish the two. Yeah. And that might be splitting hairs, but it makes a difference to me. I feel like I need to say hypnotic trance if that's what I mean. Yeah.
I also think that I don't think it's binary. I don't think that you're in a trance, you're not. Or I think that a naturalistic trance can be enhanced.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not just that,
or deliberate.
Yeah. I mean, deepening
like
trance. Well, go ahead.
Oh yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah. But I think like deepening trance, I don't think that depth is necessarily a thing or a state as much as it's taking a trance and making it more robust, making it, again, you're deepening the experience, not necessarily not necessarily depth as a state. I know that's apart from this topic, but yeah, I think it's more analog, I guess.
Okay.
Rather than digital.
Yeah, and I think that I kind of feel like, and this is just me and just from my experience and no research, certainly not the type of research that David Ruby does, but just that, yes, we are in trance all the time. And that's why I don't worry about the induction. My idea is just deepening the state, deepening.
Yeah.
Until you get that enriching experience.
Yeah.
And I think depth is a metaphor. Because the brain is complex and we use metaphors all the time. And who cares if we say depth of trance? People get their panties in a wad if you say depth of trance. I'm like, we said depth of trance for 100 years now. Okay. Everybody knows what you're talking about. And the client knows what you're talking about when you say that. It's easy for the client to understand when you say go deeper, right? They know what that means. Otherwise, if you're talking all in, connecting your neural pathways and blah, 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 that will lose them and confuse them. Not all of them, but the majority of them will just, so I think, go ahead.
For me, it's like if you're watching a show, or I watch too much TV apparently, but you're watching a movie, right? Or you're reading a story or a book, there's a depth to that involvement. When you're first reading it, maybe you're aware of you're reading the paper, and you're also aware your kids are goofing off, and like your cat's scratching at the door. Then 2 or 3 pages in, the whole world disappears.
So absorption.
That's how I tend to distinguish it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessary to have that depth to read the story in a newspaper, but it helps to have that experience. It makes it a more engrossing experience.
Yeah, and maybe even more accessible. And just the fact that you're not blocking it with your conscious mind if you're taking in suggestions. And that's why I enjoy a very deep or profound somnambulistic state, because I'm not getting conscious interference. Now, do I believe that changes can happen in the waking state? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because even in the waking state, you're still in at least a light state of trance most of the time, natural trance.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But what could happen is you could get conscious interference.
Sure.
And so that's why I personally prefer to work in deep state hypnosis. And I'm going to take we have a lot of people on, and I thank you, all these viewers, for showing up. And I'm going to read some of your questions and comments now for our esteemed guest, David Ruby, to answer. So and forgive me if I can't get to every single one of your comments, but I'll try to get to as much of them as possible. Hi, Scott Bab. And let's see. And hi, Keith Anthony. Okay, he's got a question here. He says, I'm sure we all know a drug is only approved when it produces a greater effect than a placebo.
Yeah.
Was that a question or just a comment? But yeah, that's true. And that the drugs have to beat placebo to get on the market or something like that, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. And Beryl says, so does, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay. I'm not sure what we were talking about at that point. Sorry about that. And Alex says there are only two states, responsive or not.
Okay.
And hey, Steve Miller. And Steve Miller agrees with Alex. Okay. So if anybody wants to join in and, and explain whatever your opinion is. But we also don't want to just look at opinions. We also want to kind of tie some science into this as well. And that's actually why I have David Ruby on, because he's a wealth of information, and he rolls up his sleeves and he actually digs down into the science of it all, which I find fascinating too.
Yeah. Well, one thing I found, one of my notes is from an article called The Prefrontal Cortex and Suggestion, Hypnosis versus Placebo Effects. This is from Frontiers of Psychology in 2016. But one of the quotes in there is that research using transcranial magnetic stimulation suggests that placebo effects require the involvement of the prefrontal cortex, whereas hypnotic suggestibility is increased with when the prefrontal cortex is hypoactive. So that suggests that study suggests there's an inverse relationship between how they affect the brain in opposite manners, which I thought was interesting because, again, that's where, and you can debate the science or not, but that's still an interesting finding. Yeah,
and could you explain that in layman's terms for us, what you just read?
No. No, what I took that was that when they did a transcranial magnetic stimulation, I'm guessing that's sort of like an MRI, some kind of brain scan. But what it showed was that when they used placebo for something, it stimulated the opposite part of the brain, or it stimulated the brain in an opposite way than hypnosis did.
So was it affecting a different part of the brain? Is that what you mean?
I think that they looked at how it affected the prefrontal cortex, whereas placebo required the involvement of the prefrontal The prefrontal cortex was active with placebo, whereas when hypnosis was involved, it went more.
Like it shut down because hypnosis shuts down the prefrontal cortex.
Right. So that study implied that they work in opposite ways.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, yeah. So that makes sense then. So I wonder if that means with the placebo, there is the conscious involvement, and maybe with hypnosis, it's more of an unconscious or not so much in the analytical part of the brain kind of a decision.
And I think they do both work under suggestion. I think it's just they work different ways.
Okay.
So I tend to think that implied to me that they're working with a similar mechanism. They're still working with suggestion, whereas hypnosis, at least in that study, and who knows how the style could have affected that. But that style could have made it where a deep trance state, so to speak, is going to make the prefrontal cortex go more, say, to hypoactive, where it's less active, whereas placebo is going to fire it off more.
Okay, so there's definitely different effects that are happening with the brain.
Yeah.
So that's why we can't quite call hypnosis placebo, because the brain is being affected differently. Alex says many drugs, especially antidepressants, are released when they are worse than placebo. I've heard that before. And I don't know, that gets into big pharma and conspiracy theories and stuff like that, which I don't disagree with. Maybe that's what's happening, but But did you have anything to say to that, or is that a little too off topic?
No, I think that's probably true. And I think if things are shown to be less effective, they can't sell them. You have to, for something to be marketable, they have to demonstrate that it's better than what's out there, better than placebo, or that there aren't horrible side effects as best they can.
Yeah.
So I think I'm agreeing with him on that point.
Oh, okay. But because sometimes they'll slip medications through even when it doesn't beat placebo.
What they do is they won't necessarily publish reports that don't show their stuff in a positive light, which is not very ethical, obviously, but it does happen. They do have control over what gets published. So if I did a study and found out my medication didn't do so hot, I'm not legally authorized to have to tell you that this did less than.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Oh,
yeah, agree literature is a fun.
So those laws need to be changed, probably, but
yeah,
that's kind of out of our hands right now. So Keith Anthony says 2 states, drunk and totally blitz. Okay.
I got a party with Keith Anthony apparently.
And Steve has a question.
Yes.
And let me hide your name there so I can get the full thing on the screen there. All right. Do you think that the client-therapist relationship is actually 90% practitioner personality and communication /EI, and the protocol is just 10%?
Probably, Steve. I think that one of the things that, not to name drop, but why not? Anthony Jacquin mentioned in some study was found that the therapeutic relationship had a huge impact on how anything worked. So if you can present it as it's you and the client or the patient against this, whatever they're trying to fix, that has a huge impact on whether it works or not. And I think that any technique that's withstood the test of time works, whether that's NLP or mesmerism or hypnosis, whether it's Elman or Erickson or beyond. I think if it's withstood the test of time, it works. How it's worked and that communication, that interaction. Here's what I think. I think that what we're trying to do is get the unconscious to do whatever it can. And if you have the skills to allow the unconscious to, be as resourceful as it can, you're going to have as good results as the unconscious can do. I
agree with that.
To some extent, the technique or the protocol or the process is almost irrelevant if you get that.
Agreed. And I think a lot of your work can actually be done in the pre-talk. Yeah. And then the rest of it is just, formality. Unless you're trying to get into really deep, profound somnambulism, then you gotta do the protocol.
Nice.
And Alex says all brain scans have been proven useless in this regard. Okay, and then
my thought would that be show me a study where they found that it was irrelevant, as opposed to just someone's opinion. And that includes mine. If I say that MRI scans and brain scans are helpful, well, I have to back it up by saying here are the studies where they showed something. If anything, these studies show something. If it shows that with placebo, the prefrontal cortex fires off, and it shows that in hypnosis, the prefrontal cortex shuts down, that still shows you that there is a difference. And in the literature, when it says that, hypnosis means one thing and placebo means another, you can't just throw that out because it doesn't fit with your model of the world. That means something. These terms, how they use that means something. How significant that is to you may be, that you may not find that terribly significant in the actual application, and that's a different topic, sure. But these things show something. What you do with that, again, don't just take my word on it. I researched it obviously, and I have studies that I can tell you that say this. But make your own conclusions. But this means something. If you do one process and it does this to your body and your brain, and this process is something else,
you should be able to repeat it.
Yeah, it's
and get
replicable.
relatively the same results.
Yeah, and those two things are not the same. If they
Yeah.
do different things, even if they do work under the same mechanism of suggestion, they're not. That disproves that they're the same thing, and these scans mean nothing. Well, they mean something. You can't just throw it out because you don't like the results or it doesn't fit with your model of the world. That's where I had the biggest problem with Alex was not to rip on him. I think he makes some good points about suggestibility and there are correlations, but to basically say that, these are totally the same thing. Well, no, they're not, and they're not, they're described differently. And you can actually, literature actually shows there's no link between placebo effects and hypnotizability. Some people will work better with placebos and others. Some people are more hypnotizable than others, and there's no direct correlation. So I would disregard that line of thinking that they're the exact same thing because they're not. And that I can disprove at least based on the definitions of how they're used.
Right. Okay, let's get Jacqueline. Somebody we haven't heard from yet. I have seen studies show that it's a minimum 50-50, i.e. the client-therapist rapport, and Erickson used to do that.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think there definitely has to, I couldn't see it being 90-10 and working very well because, yeah, I think you do have to definitely have that rapport.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay. And Alex is recommending books in the comments. And you guys can go back and read that if you like. They are not. So, yeah, because I know sometimes I'll ask clients who come in, well, I always ask, what do you think hypnosis is? That's the first thing that I really want to know from them. What do you think? Because I want to make sure that either I need to dispel myths or if I could take their own meaning and utilize their meaning of hypnosis to create this world for them that fits into their thought processes, right? Into their model, then that will be even more effective. And from time to time, I'll say, well, what do you think hypnosis is? And I will get clients that say, oh, I think it's just like the placebo effect, right? So I think it's more than the placebo effect. I'll talk about my opinion in just a moment. And I can only say opinion based on my work because there hasn't been a lot of scientific research done around deep trance hypnosis, at least not done in the proper way. So, and people are trying to read scripts to get somebody into a deep and profound state. Doesn't quite always work in these studies. Yeah. So, but let me read a few more comments. And then, oh goodness. And Alex is saying Erickson was the biggest con man, and never did most of what he claimed. I don't think that. See, Erickson wasn't trying to teach other people Ericksonian hypnosis when he was doing his hypnosis. And he even said, he was all about utilization and bringing the client in and working with the client. I think he was very client focused. And he even said, he never taught a formal class. People would come and try to study with him or observe what he was doing, but he never taught formally because he said that every single person is different. And if I just gave you one way of working, then you would try that on every single person and it wouldn't work. And so he was very clear about that. In fact, but we all try to teach Ericksonian hypnosis, right? Exactly. Like there is such a thing. And the only person who could do Ericksonian hypnosis was Milton Erickson. So we sort of model him. We take some of the stuff that he's done and we, made it into our own. But I don't think that he was a con man, in my opinion, just from what I've read and studied about him. So
I never met Erickson, obviously. He's a bit before my time, but I have talked to people and met people and trained people that use his stuff, and clearly it works. I mean, David Kaloff has done practice in the Seattle area since the 80s, I believe, say 70s or 80s. Michael Watson, Michael's great. He does great work with Ericksonian-based methods. Stephen Gilligan's amazing, very Erickson trained and inspired by.
Yeah.
So to say that he's a con man, I think that's, silly. But there are people that use his stuff now that it works, and that's a fact.
Yeah, Igor Ludahovsky uses it very effectively. David Snyder uses it, I think. Yeah. But then again, it's like, what are you talking about when you're talking about Ericksonian hypnosis? Whose version of Ericksonian hypnosis did you learn? Because, it didn't really come from Milton Erickson.
A minor plug, and this is not my course. I get no money from it, Jess. But Jess Marion has a great course called Erickson and Beyond. And it's not just a name drop, because I do like Jess a lot. Her stuff's really, really, really good. But this course is great because it looks at the history of Erickson. It looks at the history of Elman to some extent, too. It crosses over how they compare. But it looks at Erickson's whole career, his more authoritarian early days. He was very traditional at first until he developed Ericksonian hypnosis. But
what we're saying is really a more conversational style, covert,
but that wasn't
hypnotic language.
Well, he did also do, like, allegedly at least, and I wasn't there, but he allegedly did like a lot of handshake interrupts with people and put his friends into trance until he lost rapport and it stopped working. That could be a myth. I wasn't there.
Right.
But he's not just known for the conversational stuff. That's what people tend to focus on. But
right.
He did his case study shows some very crass methods if you need to be provocative.
Definitely. He was very provocative, and he was a psychotherapist. So he was working with patients in hospitals. He was working with some people who had some very, very disturbing mental illnesses, So, and, not just the, everyday stuff that we kind of work with. He's working with some heavy cases, I would say, in a lot of his cases. So, all right. So in my work, I'll just tell you a little bit about my opinion. It's only opinion. I have no book to refer you to. Okay. The only thing I can say is if you do the work yourself, you can find out for yourself with your own clients. Okay. But, when I do my profound somnambulism, that gives me the ability to talk directly to the pure subconscious. Now, we can always have a debate on what we think the pure subconscious is. Okay. But I'm not going to get into that today. But the subconscious mind gives me a lot of feedback and a lot of information. And I ask a lot of questions. And this is the protocol that I use on 90% of my clients now. So I've gleaned a lot of information over the past several years from the actual subconscious talking to me through the client's voice box. And what I'm finding is that in order for a suggestion to take, yes, we can give it to the subconscious. We can ask the subconscious to go in and reprogram it and make all the changes and use the control room, whatever you want to do, whatever metaphor you want to do, or if you just want to, give direct suggestions or hypnotic commands to the subconscious, we can do that. And the subconscious will try to do it. Now, if the subconscious gets blocked, it's because the conscious part of the mind doesn't have a belief in it. If the conscious part of the mind doesn't believe in something, and I'll give you an example of that because this just happened to me recently, where I was hypnotizing a client, and I wanted the subconscious to use the white healing light to heal, just to take some pain out of a hip joint in one of my clients. And I said, you can use that white healing light that comes from another dimension. And the subconscious, tried to use it, came back and said, I tried, but it's not working.
Yeah.
And I said, well, why isn't it working? And it said, because he does not believe. And I said, oh, he doesn't believe he can be healed. And it said, he doesn't believe in dimensions. I said, oh, okay. Because I used the word dimension. The client didn't believe in dimensions. So blocked it. So I said, okay, well, does he believe in God? And the subconscious said yes. And I said, oh, well, I just meant that white healing light comes from God. I use the word dimensions, but what I really meant was it came from God.
Yeah.
And he said, he will accept that. And then he went in and, okay, now the pain is gone. So I know that the conscious mind does work on some level, or a belief. We could just talk about belief work. There has to be some kind of a belief there. And also, I think for the most effective hypnosis to be done, I think the hypnotist needs to believe in the suggestions that they're giving and has to be confident in that delivery. And the client has to believe that it's going to work on some level in order for it to work.
I think part of that is with mirror neurons, because if you don't bind, if you don't have congruence, well, mirror neurons going to pick up on that, and then you're kind of, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because you're going to be healed, and I don't really believe it, but I'm telling you this, and you can pick up on it.
Yeah, and you can pick up in the inflections in the voice. And...
Right. So I think that their unconscious is going to pick. Well, they'll be aware of it on some level. I think mirror neurons is probably the scientific explanation, where they, they'll pick up on incongruities. The body language will come through. So if you don't buy into it, if you don't, it kills your expectation. If someone tells you something, they don't really believe in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a really good story to go with that. Okay. So some of you know who Antonio Perez is, and he has a podcast where he interviews, other famous hypnotists. And I was listening to his podcast. This was several years ago, and he said, "All right, and today's show, it's these lost files of Milton Erickson. Nobody's ever heard these before. This is being broadcast for the first time to the public. Okay, so stand by and listen to it." And so this is right before I have a client who's about to come in, but I'm just sort of like waiting, like they're a little bit late. I'm just like listening, go, oh, wow, Milton. And at that time I was like, Milton Erickson, he was a genius, And so I'm listening to it, and I'm hearing this old man's voice talking and saying this wonderful patter. And I'm over here like going, I'm scribbling down the pattern, and the lady that I have coming in, this is her second session. The first session didn't go so great. So I'm like, all right, well, if Milton Erickson said this, then I should say this too, at that time, because this was this is like maybe 10 years ago. I know better now. But at that time I was like, let me just do it. And so now I feel like I had, so I don't hear the rest of the podcast because she comes in, I have to pause the recording. And so I've got like the pattern written down, right. And then I very confidently put her into hypnosis. And I don't remember what her case was about, but I do remember that it was amazing. It was a great session. She woke up happy, possibly pain-free. I can't remember what her session was about, but I remember it being a really wonderful session. I was like, yes, thank you, Uncle Milty. Thank you. Okay. And then I forgot about listening to the rest of the recording. I went home that night. I told my husband, and he was like, wow, that's so amazing. And I go, oh yeah, now that I think about it, I need to listen to the rest of that recording. Haven't not finished listening to it. So it's about midnight. I'm listening to the rest of the recording, and then I'm still taking down notes, copious notes of what he's saying, his patter. And then it kind of goes silent for a moment. And then all I hear is this eruption of laughter. I'm like, from Milton Erickson and Antonio Perez. And these two guys are laughing hysterically, going, April Fools. Right. This was not the lost files of Milton Erickson. This is my friend Joe, or whoever it was, right. That was just acting like Milton Erickson. So I was like, oh my God, like, you're kidding me. And I felt so stupid. But it was like a really good lesson to me, because it gave me this confidence, thinking, well, if I just use Milton Erickson's words, and then that's what's going to work. And so I I had the belief, and so therefore I had the confidence that it was going to work. And I think that transmitted into my client, and she picked that up, and that's why it worked. So that was a huge, huge lesson for me. So I'm grateful. As embarrassing as it was, I'm really grateful that I went through that experience, because that told me a lot.
Yeah. Interesting that this circles back to the placebo discussion in a roundabout way, was that how you present the placebo actually impacts how effective it is. So doctor competence, not confidentiality, how confident they are, as well as which method they use, has an impact. So confidence is key. Yeah, that congruity that this will work.
Excuse me. Absolutely. Okay, let me take some, I'm going to get a swig of water for a moment, and then I'm going to take some comments.
Why not?
Excuse me. Okay. Let's see. Let's go to Jacqueline first. Regarding confidence, totally, we have to be. Yeah, and that's one of the first thing that I teach to the my new hypnosis students, who people are just coming in. I actually don't teach basic hypnosis anymore, but when I did teach it, the first thing that I taught was confidence. Because if you don't have confidence, even if you fake it, it's okay. You know, fake it till you make it kind of thing. That's fine. Fake it, pretend, do like what we tell our clients to do. You know, visualize, imagine, or play pretend. And any of those will work. So you can do that for yourself. So you can just imagine what it would be like if you were a confident hypnotist. How would that feel? How would you move around in your body? You can, and that's really how I started, because I'm naturally an introvert, and I was a nervous Nelly taking my first clients, but I just kind of got into state, and I just, at first I just modeled other hypnotists who I admired, I guess, or who, and then I just did that until it just became second nature, and now I just am confident. So if you have to fake it till you make it, then that's fine too, because that's just, that's sort of a form of future pacing anyway. So,
and it's a skill.
And it's, definitely a skill. Oops, let me hide our name so we can see this thing. Oh, thanks, Steve Miller.
Thanks,
he says he really enjoyed listening, got a lot. Okay, cool. Yeah, we do agree on many things, and where we don't triggers exploration. And that's why I wanted to have this, just a really, I just want to have a really fun intellectual discussion. And I'm not saying, if you believe in placebo, then you're wrong, or or that you're right. It's not wrong or right. It's just, let's just get everybody's opinions, because I think it's fascinating.
What I think is also good about that is I think that exploration is great. If someone disagrees with me, I think that's great, because I can see where and why. I'm not trying to present anything as if I have the absolute answer, because I don't think that exists. So I think that's great. If people disagree with me, that's wonderful. I can find out why. What are you seeing that I'm not, or why I disagree with X, Y, or Z when I think this or that?
Right.
So that's great. That's a good point.
Yeah, exactly. Because that helps us. It's just like, if you would disagree with something, well, then maybe there's a hole in my theory somewhere, or the practical application of it. And let me go in and try to discover what that is, and see if that matches my model, or if I can tweak it. And then you just go in and practice. Okay, so I'll tweak it, and let me try it this way. And if it doesn't work that way, no big deal. Go back to your old way, but maybe you try something new and you tweak it, and then it makes your life easier, so I'm very practical, hands-on. So take it out of your head and put it into your hands and do it. And then whatever works for you is what's going to work for you. And what's going to work for me doesn't necessarily work for David, or doesn't necessarily work for Alex. You've got to take what works for you. And as always, the bottom line is the client anyway, right? Have you helped the client?
Results matter.
Results matter. That's what matters. All this other stuff is theory. Some of it's speculation, and some of it has been tested scientifically. But whatever works for you is the right answer. Can seduction occur after hypnosis?
Not in my office.
Can seduction? Or can seduction occur? Am I reading that correctly? I'm not really sure what you mean. If you could just sort of expound on that and help us to understand what you're asking, then I'll be happy to answer it more thoroughly. And Nora says, hello all. Hello, Nora. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so we only have about 5 minutes left. David, thank you so much for coming. I'm going to give you the floor for last words, and then I want you to tell the audience where they can find out more about you and how to get in contact with you if they have more questions.
Sure. I guess my call to action would be, again, don't just believe me. If anyone's interested, I can actually give you the studies that I'm drawing this stuff from. I'm not just making it up. But yeah, I go on PubMed and do your own research and don't believe anything you hear, I guess. But as far as where I'm at, my business practice is Fox Valley Hypnosis in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Actually, my office is in Menasha, although I can do stuff online, of course.
And do you specialize in a particular area, or just kind of take all in general?
The specialties I tend to do, I do a lot of sport performance. I'm probably going to start doing things like PTSD and pain management. Right now, I'm mainly a generalist. I plan to niche down, I suppose, or niche down, if you will, in the next few months. So I'm working on what ones I want to focus most on. So, but yeah, a lot of it's honestly, shaman wasn't in the phone book, so they called me, or they were, or they tried everything else, and I was their last. So I get a lot, but that's great. 'Cause you get a lot of interesting calls. A lot of clients have things that don't fit nicely into one box.
Right, that's correct. Okay, well, awesome, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for all the questions and comments.
Yes, thank you, everybody, for showing up and for participating. It makes the show so much better when you guys leave comments and participate. And I'm sorry if I didn't get to all of your comments. There were just kind of too many going across the screen. I just had to sort of, pick and choose as I was trying to also listen to David talk at the same time. And but I will read all of your comments when this is over. I will go back and read all of your comments for sure. And so thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, David, so much for all of your wisdom and for doing the research and sharing the research with us. I really appreciate it. David is just a wealth of knowledge. And David, I love reading all of your posts because you just analyze the crap out of things, but I love it because I like the way you do it. And you give enough information that it supports whatever theory that you're talking about. Yeah. You support it with so much information. It's like, hey, I believe this guy because he's got all of this information. And of course I do my own research as well, but I just mean that I always love reading your posts because I think that you really think things through. You're very thorough when you're trying to explain something. You do it in such a way where it doesn't offend anybody. You're very polite, and so I just love that. And and I just appreciate you for who you are.
Thanks.
Okay. And that will wrap the show up today. And check out Profound Somnambulism if you guys are interested in it. Again, I said this in the beginning, but I'll say it now at the end. We have the Spring into Somnambulism PS special going on right now. I will put the link in the comments for how you can get it, but it's at a very deep discount, down from $12.97 all the way down to $4.97, and it's only lasting until May 7th, and then it'll be gone after that. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day, and for all of my Christian friends, have a very happy Easter. Bye.
Toodles. We need some exit music or something.
I know. I need exit music.